This is Max Roach, Carnegie Hall. Shot with a Hasselblad with a wide-angle lens. I don't know which one. Natural light. This is Oscar Pettiford. This was a 4x5 negative. I used to, in the very early days, all I had was a speed graphic. So I use that a lot, fortunately, and I've learned that the discipline you have to exercise using large format is the greatest thing. Today, you pick up all the automatic stuff, you don't know what you're getting. And that's a big mistake. It's too easy to get a picture, but you're not paying attention. And the large format makes you pay attention. I think that's very beneficial. In this case, there's one light, and I had him move, I didn't have him move, he moved in different directions, out of which I think there were about 6 or 7 sheets that I shot on this particular setup. This one worked. You could not have it, I wouldn't have the shot, but I like it. Buddy Rich. I used to go to the recording sessions that I was hired to shoot, and I'd always bring 2 strobe lights. And when I could, I would shine the lights on the subject, and when I couldn't, I'd shine it on the ceiling and do a bounce. Yeah.
I read in your book that a lot of your photographs, or a few of your photographs in the beginning, were an accident because your flash was off.
No, that was, that story is true. One of the very first jazz shots I did when I was at Ohio University, Benny Goodman's band came through to play for our dance. And one of the musicians, the trumpet player, agreed to let me take his picture. And I had a backlight, and I had a front light. The front light didn't fire. The only thing was the backlight. What I got was edge lighting.
So I was wondering, flipping through your book, were you able to, in a lot of your situations with musicians, use your own lighting technique?
Well, in recording sessions, yeah.
Okay.
More or less. In some sessions, they didn't want the lights shining on them because it bothered them.
Right.
Not that I didn't have any pilot lights, but they just didn't want that flash in their faces.
Mm-hmm.
So I bounced off the ceiling, and I have some shots like that. You just did what you could do. But when I went to the nightclubs, I usually, when I could, would install my lights in the afternoon in the ceiling. Because some of the, you'll see, I'll explain how.
Okay.
This is another 4x5 negative. Fats Navarro, shot at the Royal Roost in 1948. Jesus Christ, that's 50 years ago. And one light. What I tried to do, no, this is 2 lights, sorry. But you can't see the same. I tried to put the lights in the same position as the normal spotlight was on the guy. Not to change anything, I just wanted to keep the atmosphere.
Hey Herman, tell them about hyping up the Royal Double X.
Oh yeah, well, this may be an example of it. Incidentally, this is a lousy slide. It is much more contrasty and harsh than the original. So put in a filter. What I did, I think the maximum film speed that I could obtain was about 100 ASA. And we didn't have any super speed developers. There were a few. But I read in an old photo book that if you take mercury and put it in the bottom of the tank and suspend your film for 24 hours in the vapors, it'll double your film speed. So I got a plastic tank, and I went to the pharmacy, and I bought a dozen thermometers, and the guy looked at me and said, "Are you a doctor?" I said, "No." He said, "What, you're sick." So I broke the thing. Today I wouldn't do that, because I know what mercury does, but there I was playing with this mercury. And then in the dark, I put it on the reel, closed the tank, and left it in for 24 hours, and sure enough, it doubled the speed, as far as I could tell. And then I could shoot at 200 ASA in situations that, normally I wouldn't get.
You're right at the drugstores tonight.
Yeah. This is Tad Dameron, who Dizzy Gillespie says was one of the real originators of bebop music. So those of you who are into jazz, a little bit of inside information. But this kind of illustrates what I happen to like. It's very simple, and it's like you can't even see what's in his face, but you don't have to, in my estimation. I remember seeing a sketch by Picasso that just had a few lines, but you could tell the whole character and the personality. And that influenced me a lot, so I tried to simplify my pictures, or at least the lighting, wherever I could, just to show the essential elements, not a lot of detail. I happen to personally like that. This is one example. Dizzy Gillespie at the Royal Roost, 1948. 2 lights, one behind his head facing us, and the other up in the ceiling. You see the ceiling has a lot of plastic vines. That the whole thing was, which was a godsend for me, because I could run the they didn't have radio slaves. They didn't have slaves in those days. So I was obliged to wire all through that stuff behind the bandstand and to where I anticipated I would be. And for the whole evening I was stuck there because I couldn't fire from anywhere else. And that too was discipline. I had to go back several times. Sometimes I'd shoot for a whole evening, get nothing. And then I'd change my position and get something. And then you had to wait for the musician to be in front of that backlight. So you were limited. Out of this particular shot, which is one of the more popular ones for the musicians, I think I probably shot 6 or 7 sheets of 4x5. Dizzy and the Muppets. He did a Muppet show in London, and I was there, and it was one of the most hysterical things I ever saw. Whoever they had doing the vocals for the Muppets were as good as he was in the repartee, the talk back and forth and the remarks, and everybody was just on the floor laughing. I wish I could remember to tell you about it. This is Ella Fitzgerald at the Downbeat Club in New York in 1949. 2 lights. One for her, and the other to the right that illuminates the background and all of that. In this case, I wanted to get the atmosphere and the musicians, but I wanted her to pop out. I have prints, I brought some prints with me that you can look at later, where she actually pops out of the picture a little bit more because the background's a bit foggy, and that's the way I wanted it.
I mean, what are your lights here? Like the reflectors and that kind of thing that are in?
I was using Wabash strobe units, which were battery operated 50 watt-second units. This big, heavy, and they had liquid batteries in there that you had to recharge. And the transparent panels on the side, with red and blue balls that kept going up and down according to the charge. If you had blue balls, you were charged. They had simple lamps and simple basic flash reflectors. There were no umbrellas in those days.
What sort of aperture would you get?
Yeah. And here is the lady. Lady Day, Billie Holiday. You don't see the whole picture here, but that's okay. I think I have prints here.
How did you get the smoke back there?
Well, she was smoking when she came in, and I told her not to hold it while she was singing. She turned around behind. There's a piano here, and there's an ashtray in the back. But I had backlighting. You see behind her hair?
Yeah.
I always like a little backlighting because it sets it off. It delineates the image. And in this case, it picked up the smoke. Smoke is one of the signature things in my photos, and it's pure accident, believe me. I had no idea. In fact, I was asked recently to redo what I did then. I couldn't do it because the cigarettes don't smoke the same way. I mean, they just don't give, light. So we had to resort to tricks by putting a little piece of incense on the end of the glowing cigarette, and then it comes up.
Herman, was this a club performance?
Sorry?
Was this a club performance?
Yes, this was a club performance.
So were you on stage with the performance to get this close to?
I was right in front of her.
Right in front.
Yeah. This was done shortly after she came out of jail. She was in jail on drug charges for some time, which was a good thing for her because she was so wasted on junk that the jail gave her a time to recuperate. So she's very healthy here. But I don't think I have the others tonight in slide form. The last session I did with Billie Holiday was in 1955. She died a couple of years later. And a story that I tell, which is true, when I walked into that studio and she came in, she was pissed drunk and looking awful. And, hey, like that. And I said to Norman Granz, I can't shoot this. I mean, you can't use this kind of stuff on your cover. He said, you get your ass out there and shoot because it may be the last time. And it was for me. As soon as she got up to the microphone, her voice cleared perfectly and that sound came out amazing. And then she turned away and said, how was that? You blew my mind. And she looked just amazing. Well, she had a very difficult life, this lady. I loved her a lot, and so did everybody else. There she is in Hollywood, backstage, waiting to go on. This was in 1953. Now here is a case. If you saw this negative, you would say, forget it. It won't print. That's exactly my reaction when I saw it, because there was just no light. And I had an F4 or something, and not high-speed film. But for some reason or other, I managed to squeeze a print. And I like it a lot. I call it her wedding cake dress or birthday cake dress or whatever. Normally she didn't wear these flamboyant things, but in this one. Oh yeah. You often wonder where he is today. The little boy came in and he was adjusting her dress. She wore some bizarre shoes from 1950s, but that was Billie, her style. But she was in chains all her life anyway. So for me, it's kind of symbolic. You know, after shooting a lot of pictures of these people for so many years, you get to the point where you don't want to see their faces, you want to see an element that represents them. And I managed to do that in a couple of